Hi, welcome to Heart Talk, a 6-part relationship podcast that invites you to have real conversations about real relationship realities. In these podcasts, we want to give you tools to reconnect and develop healthy relationships. My name is Jose Yatu.
And I am Cheryl Yatu. We have been married for 36 years and have lived through and experienced the different seasons of relationships both before and after marriage.
We also have a practice called J&C Relationship Counseling, and we've been involved in counseling since 2009. Our passion is to help singles and couples put some healthy values, structures, principles, and practices in place to build and maintain healthy relationships for life. In our first episode, we looked at 5 key practices for building a healthy relationship, and I encourage you to go and listen to it. In today's podcast, we will be discussing the topic of intimacy in a relationship, and how intimacy is defined, and what are the different types of intimacy we experience in a relationship. But just as a way of intro, we as humans, we social and we relational beings. We desire connection with fellow human beings, and we need love, and we need that connection to grow and to flourish in life. And intimacy is the key to the success of any human relationship. Unfortunately, when you speak of intimate relationships, sexual intimacy is the first thing that comes to our minds. But there are other types of intimacy, and it's equally important for a relationship to have these other types of intimacy if it's going to be a fulfilling relationship. So the strength of a connection in a relationship with your partner isn't just the result of physical or emotional intimacy. There are other types of intimacy in a relationship. And so we are going to look at all those types of intimacy. So let's first define kind of what is intimacy. And I love this definition. If you take the word intimacy, you can break it up into in, to, me, see. So it speaks of vulnerability and being open. And the goal of any relationship is only experienced through that connection and through that intimacy. So to define it in a broader sense, it's the feeling of being connected with another person from your heart, your mind, and your soul. It's when two people feel close to one another, feel comfortable enough to show each other, to be vulnerable with each other, and to share each other's lives. And that is how intimacy is formed. So let's get into the 8 types of intimacy that you need to focus on with equal importance. So Cheryl, you want to start with the first one?
So the first one is spiritual intimacy. Spiritual intimacy not only strengthens a relationship, but gives couples the ability to handle life and the crisis far better than ones who have not connected on this deep level. So maybe you can ask yourself the question, have you shared your belief with your significant other or your partner about God? For those who know the Lord, are they both believers? Do they both believe the same things as far as coming to being spiritual things? And then do they have common spiritual beliefs? Because even as Christians, we could say that we're Christians, but there are areas that we do differ on, so we need to be aware of that. If not, this can put you and your partner on a very different path in life. For instance, if you're a non-believer and your partner is a believer, it can lead to a lot of differences in your outlook and your approach towards life situations. Then, number 2 is intellectual intimacy. Now, intellectual intimacy is about sharing thoughts, your skills, your hobbies, and connecting with each other on a higher intellectual level. You need to be able to have free-flowing discussions about what you desire in life, your perspective on different situations, the causes you feel strongly about, because we won't have things in common. We would actually have different things that we value more in life. Political issues. This is a tough one for me because politically Jose is more a fay with what's going on. So I listen to him, and even though I don't always agree, we can have the conversation and we can actually agree to disagree on those topics. I think we can learn to debate without arguing or wanting to be right and the other one being wrong. We can actually agree to disagree, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, if I can just come in on intellectual intimacy, I think sometimes what happens with a lot of couples is the one partner maybe is kind of more intellectual, and loves that intellectual stimulation and loves to debate things and loves to bring up things that are very controversial. And then the other partner is like, they're not quite into that, For the partner that's not quite into it, I think it's important that you do engage around it, As Cheryl said, she has different views about things, but at least she doesn't shy away from it, there were times, I think sometimes where Cheryl would say, oh, do we really have to talk about that now? Well, why are you bringing that up? But I appreciate it when she engages, at whatever level she wants to engage and says something about it, So I think that's important. Intellectual head-to-head contact is very important, yeah. But then the third one is experiential intimacy. So when you talk about different types of intimacy, the experiential dimension is probably one that's not discussed a lot, And simply put, it's about collecting experiences together as a couple, So whether that's, doing holidays together, vacations together, visiting places of interest, going to shows, going to a restaurant, just collecting all those experiences and memories. And obviously in today's world, collecting all the photos that go with it digitally, and you don't have to post everything on Facebook, keep some of your experiences private and, personal, I find it when you post things, it like breaks that sense of intimacy. Like that was our moment. Now the whole world knows our moment, But that doesn't mean to say you got to, no couple's going to spend all their time together, So we're in a situation because we're both retired, so we're always together, but we have our times and our spaces where we're not together. But if you're a couple that's apart a lot, because of work and because of other commitments, then you really got to plan those experiences and those times, and you've got to schedule it into your diary to do things together. And you've got to create those memories. So that's an important intimacy. The next one is one which you might think, well, that's a little bit strange. How can this create intimacy? But it's called conflict intimacy. Now, when you come together as a couple, those of you that have just got married or just in dating or engaged, you're going to share life journey together. And it's impossible to go through life without conflict. Okay, so you can't avoid conflict because you're two different people. You're going to disagree about many things. So that process of disagreeing doesn't have to be unhealthy conflict. It can be a healthy conflict. And it can build intimacy. It can build a bond because if you're able to work through that conflict in a healthy way, and you're able to disagree even in healthy ways and in respectful manners, you create a connection and a bonding. And there's many ways of obviously resolving conflict. You don't have to agree. That shouldn't be your goal. This person's got to agree with me. I think understanding is an important goal. Understand each other's point of view. But sometimes you're going to agree to disagree. Sometimes you're going to agree and you're going to come to a resolution. And it's a mix of those kind of things. But all that builds intimacy. So I think some questions you need to ask yourself is, are you settling your fights, okay, but you're not really resolving the differences and the real conflict, okay, and that's not healthy. Are there times when you believe you've sorted out a conflict, yet you still continue to experience negative emotional residue, you know? Or does an old issue keep reoccurring and coming up and irritating you again and again? That probably tells you that you're not resolving the conflict in healthy ways, and you're not, okay. So conflict intimacy, a big one and a good one. All right.
Yeah, maybe just to get back to that, I thought that when we were married that you don't have conflict because you love each other so much, because you're Christians, you don't have conflict. So when we did have conflict, it actually caused me to be very stressed out. And then I realized that we could disagree, and it actually strengthened our relationships because it didn't make me less of a person or him less of a person. It just actually made us understand each other a little bit more. So, yeah, that was a positive thing.
Yeah.
Right. So the next one is creative intimacy. So this requires you to look at ways to remind each other of the love, the affection, and the bond you share. By doing this, you make each other feel loved and appreciated. So I think to put your thinking cap on and to find ways that you can actually be creative in your relationship. And I have a few ways that I've written down because there are things that I tend to do and I like to do. The one is maybe, as Joseph said, we are retired, but we live in the same house, we're with each other all the time, but we're not in the same room. So I would message him and I'd just send him something cute, or I'll tell him how handsome he is, or I'll tell him how much I love him. And this strengthens the relationship so much. Then little gifts. Just even if you make something, it doesn't have to be something that you buy. Just the fact that you know that this person knows you, that they've thought about you, and they've actually put enough time into wanting to do something special for the loved one. Then knowing your partner's love language is so important because we tend to give each other what we need instead of asking our partner what is it that they need from us. The next one is smile. Look at each other and smile at each other. It might seem very cheesy, but there is a bond. Just looking into each other's eyes and smiling actually creates an intimacy that gives you a sense of comfort, knowing it's home, knowing you belong. Then have coffee together. We love this because this is where we have most of our discussions, where we have disagreements or agreements over a cup of coffee. And then write down the things that you actually appreciate about each other, the things you like and the things you dislike. Because when you know the things that you dislike, you won't repeat it over and over again. You might be thinking you've been so nice to your partner and he's been irritated because you are doing things that he doesn't like at all. And then discuss, reading aloud. This is another point of discussion where I'll see something that really excites me and then I will share it with him. And this creates another form of creative intimacy. And then breakfast together in bed, not with children. We don't have children anymore, so that's actually a lovely way where we can have breakfast together. And then two other things is playing board games together, if you like that. And also dreaming together. We like asking each other, what is it that you dream about? What do you envision for our future together? And also individually, what is it that you want for the future? And that strengthens our bond big time.
Yeah. Yeah. If I just want to add on, because I found this wonderful, and we never always did it regularly, but now we found consistent, is and it links to spiritual intimacy, is doing devotions together. So yes, you might have your own time where you read, it's worship or read the word or go through individually, but doing a devotion, short 10, 15 minutes, and that we also sometimes in bed, in the mornings, after breakfast, devotional time.
Yeah,
So,
it
yeah.
is. Yeah, it does. It strengthens your bond big time.
Right,
Yeah.
then it's me. Or is it still you?
Physical intimacy.
Oh, sorry, it's still you.
He's interrupted. Right, so my last one is physical intimacy. And I know when we talk about physical intimacy, we immediately think of the sexual act. And nope, that is not it. Because when you start just connecting with each other in a physical way, like practical things, touching each other, making eye contact, I said that before, holding hands. I love holding hands when we walk in the shopping center. And if he doesn't hold my hand, I actually take his hand because I feel like, something's missing there. And then hugging each other. I love hugging, so that's another thing he gets lots of. By doing this, it actually shows you that, God created us for intimacy. So the fact that we need intimacy is not because there's something wrong with us. It's actually because we are living out the design that God has created us to live out with each other. So I think some other examples is maybe Jose loves to walk past me and pick me on the cheek in the morning, give me a kiss. If he goes out during the day, he might give me a hug. And I love that because it's going to be a whole day where I'm not going to have this man with me. Weird. But sometimes if your partner is exhausted as well, practical things like giving a little a shoulder hug, shoulder rub, just to alleviate the stress in our life. I do love it. So physical intimacy is very important because it helps build a healthy relationship. So I think it's important that you do make this a priority and keep working at it.
Yeah. So the last two, emotional intimacy. And emotional intimacy is one of the key ones, and it makes a marriage last. It is what makes two people each other's friends, their confidence, their support systems. And some questions you need to ask yourself around emotional intimacy is, do you both share your deepest desires and innermost thoughts with each other? Is your partner your go-to person both in happy and sad times? Are they the first person you think of when you want to share that really good news or big news? Do both of you know each other's innermost feelings? So all those, answer those questions and think about that, because those are all ways of building that emotional intimacy. And if you're not able to establish and nurture emotional intimacy in your relationship, it can spill over into other areas of your relationship and create problems. And then the last one we haven't left out, which is sexual intimacy. As I said in the beginning, that's always like the first one everybody thinks of when they think of intimate relationship. And it's the one that's probably discussed so much. And so much emphasis gets placed on this connection to build an intimate relationship. The problem with putting so much focus on it and it being your primary focus is the moment your physical sex drive dips, okay, you start freaking out, okay? So either the wife freaks out, doesn't he love me anymore? Doesn't he want to be with me? Or the husband like, oh, is she, looking at other men? Why am I not number, So you just start freaking out because now there's a dip in this sexual relationship. So the key to keeping that intimacy alive is don't let it be the main focus, and don't let it put so much pressure on the relationship. But you need to focus on it and ensure that both in this kind of intimacy that both of you are deriving pleasure from it. Okay, it's not just a one-way street. And remember that the feeling in that sexual intimacy is as important as the actual act itself. Okay, the last thing you want is for either partner to kind of think, okay, this is just a chore. This is just something I'm going to give in and do it. And speaking from a man's perspective, I always want to know that Cheryl derives as much pleasure as I do. The moment I feel that she's not, it actually makes me feel not good. That's just from a man's perspective. So let your bodies express and experience the love and the desire and the passion. Okay, that's the way God designed us. That's the way He created us, and you need to experience it, but don't make it the main focus. And remember that it's a mutual giving of yourself to one another for each other's pleasure. Okay, so your goal should always be, is my partner being fulfilled and getting pleasure? And those are the 8 types of intimacy. Thank you for listening to Heart Talk. I hope you found what we've shared helpful. So please like and subscribe to this channel and leave a comment. Love to hear your comments, not just see that you viewed it. And so if you found this episode, and if you listened to the previous, you find it helpful, and you want to actually meet with us and book a session with us, please contact us on jcyatu@telcomsa.net. And also you can look at our Facebook pages, as I mentioned in the beginning, on J&C Relationship Counseling. So thank you for listening to us. And until next time, bye from me, Jose.
And bye from me, Cheryl.